You're scrolling through your feed on an ordinary morning and suddenly, one photo hits you like a thunderbolt. It's Nicolás Maduro, the man who's led Venezuela for years, sitting on a U.S. military ship, blindfolded, handcuffed, dressed in simple gray prison clothes, no escape, no warning, just capture. President Trump shares it himself with the words, "Mission accomplished." Hearts race across the globe. Phones blow up with notifications. This isn't some Hollywood action flick. This is real life, unfolding right now in 2026. How did a guy who started as a bus driver end up snatched from his bedroom in a daring midnight operation by America's top secret forces? Stick around, because we're diving deep into this unbelievable true story. The rise, the chaos, the controversies, and that heart-stopping night that changed everything. You won't want to miss a second. From humble beginnings to political firebrand. Let's rewind the clock to really understand who Nicolás Maduro is. Picture this. It's the 1960s in Caracas, Venezuela, a bustling, vibrant city nestled against beautiful mountains, but also a place where many families struggle day to day. Nicolás Maduro Moros is born on November 23, 1962, into one of those working-class families. His dad is a bus driver and a passionate union organizer, always fighting for workers' rights. His mom juggles whatever jobs she can to keep food on the table. Young Nicolás grows up in a tough neighborhood, hearing stories of inequality and dreaming of a better world. As a teenager, he follows in his father's footsteps, hopping behind the wheel of those noisy, crowded city buses. Imagine him navigating the chaotic traffic of Caracas, picking up passengers from all walks of life, listening to their stories of hardship. But driving wasn't enough for Maduro. In his 20s, he dives headfirst into politics. He grows his hair long, picks up a guitar, hangs out in local clubs and union halls, talking passionately about socialism, workers' rights, and revolution. He's charismatic, determined, a true believer in changing the system from the ground up. Then comes the pivotal moment that shapes his destiny. In the early 1990s, a young army officer named Hugo Chávez attempts a bold coup against the government. It fails spectacularly, and Chávez ends up in prison. But Maduro sees something in Chávez, a leader for the people. He throws himself into the campaign for Chávez's release, organizing rallies, spreading the message. When Chávez is freed and later sweeps to power in the 1998 election on promises of helping the poor, he doesn't forget Maduro's loyalty. One by one, Maduro climbs the ladder. Elected to parliament, becomes Speaker of the National Assembly, serves as foreign minister traveling the world, and finally vice president. He's Chávez's right-hand man, learning every step of the way. Little does anyone know, this bus driver is on a direct path to the presidency. To get why Maduro's story is so polarizing, we have to talk about the Bolivarian Revolution. Hugo Chávez coined the term, naming it after Simón Bolívar, the legendary hero who helped liberate much of South America from Spanish rule in the 1800s. Chávez saw himself as Bolívar's modern heir, fighting against imperialism, inequality, and poverty. At its heart, the Bolivarian Revolution was about using Venezuela's incredible natural wealth to transform society. Venezuela sits on some of the largest proven oil reserves on the planet, black gold that could fund dreams. Chávez's plan: take control of the oil industry, pour the profits into massive social programs. We're talking free education from kindergarten to university, widespread healthcare clinics in poor neighborhoods, subsidized food markets, housing projects for the homeless, and cash transfers to low-income families. Millions were lifted out of extreme poverty in the early years. Neighborhoods that never had doctors now had clinics. Kids who couldn't afford school were suddenly getting degrees. Maduro, as Chávez's loyal protege, absorbed this vision completely. When Chávez fell ill with cancer and passed away in 2013, he looked to Maduro and said, in essence, "You're the one to carry this forward." Maduro steps into a tightly contested election, wins narrowly amid accusations of irregularities, and takes the oath of office. He promises continuity. The revolution will live on. And for the first few years, with oil prices still high, things look promising. Social spending continues, loyalty to the poor is emphasized, and Maduro positions himself as the guardian of Chávez's legacy. But beneath the surface, warning signs are flashing: dependence on oil, rising debt, and growing political divisions. The storm hits: economic crisis and global backlash. Fast forward to the mid-2010s, and everything starts to unravel in ways no one saw coming, at least not this fast. Oil prices, which had been sky-high, crashed dramatically in 2014. Suddenly, the money faucet turns off. Venezuela's economy, heavily reliant on oil exports, takes a devastating hit. Critics point to a perfect storm: falling revenues combined with years of heavy government spending, allegations of widespread corruption siphoning off billions, mismanagement of state companies, and tough international sanctions aimed at pressuring the government. The results are catastrophic for everyday Venezuelans. Hyperinflation explodes, prices doubling sometimes in days. People's savings become worthless. Supermarkets empty out, basic medicines vanish from pharmacies. Long lines form for bread, milk, anything. Hospitals run out of supplies, leading to heartbreaking stories of preventable deaths. And then the exodus begins, one of the largest in modern history. Millions pack what they can and flee to neighboring countries, walking for days, searching for work, food, safety. Families torn apart, children going hungry. Protests erupt repeatedly. Massive street demonstrations in 2014, 2017, 2019, with hundreds of thousands demanding change. The government responds with force, tear gas, arrests, reports of violence. Opposition figures are jailed or exiled. In 2018, Maduro runs for re-election and wins, but the vote is widely questioned. Dozens of countries, including the US and many in Latin America and Europe, refuse to recognize it as fair. They back opposition leaders instead. Tensions boil over. Then, in 2020, comes the explosive US indictment. Federal prosecutors accuse Maduro and his inner circle of narco-terrorism, claiming ties to Colombian rebel groups, turning Venezuela into a hub for massive cocaine shipments aimed at the United States, allegedly to fund the regime. A huge reward is posted for his capture. Maduro calls it all a fabrication, a Yankee plot to justify stealing Venezuela's oil. The world divides sharply. Allies like Russia, China, Cuba, and Iran stand by him. Others isolate him further. Sanctions bite harder. The pressure cooker is about to explode. The pressure builds, a world closing in. As the years roll on, the noose tightens. Sanctions from the US and allies cripple the economy further, freezing assets, blocking financial transactions, targeting officials personally. Maduro's government accuses the world of economic warfare. Critics say internal failures are the real culprit. Diplomatic ties break one by one. Venezuela becomes more isolated, relying on a shrinking circle of friends. Then 2025 brings a game changer. Donald Trump returns to the White House. His administration had long viewed Maduro as a threat, not just politically, but as part of broader security concerns. Policy shifts into high gear. Reports emerge of intensified intelligence operations, tracking movements, preparing contingencies. Whispers of enforcing that 2020 warrant grow louder. Maduro defies calls to step down, rallies his base, warns of invasion. The stage is set for something unprecedented. The night everything changed inside the raid. As night falls deeply over Caracas, the city sleeps under a blanket of stars and mountain shadows. Inside the presidential residence, lights dim as Maduro and his wife Celia Flores wind down for the evening, perhaps reviewing the day, completely unaware that months of shadow planning are reaching their climax. Far from the city, US forces spring into motion. The first wave comes from the skies. Precision airstrikes ripple through the darkness, targeting radars, communication hubs, and critical defense systems. Controlled explosions echo faintly, not to devastate the capital, but to create a vital window, a brief paralysis that blinds and deafens any coordinated Venezuelan response. The night sky hums with invisible activity, engines whispering in the distance. Then the pinnacle moment arrives. The elites touch down. Delta Force operators emerge like phantoms from the black. These are the pinnacle of special operations, hand-selected from America's finest soldiers, rigorously trained in secrecy for the impossible missions. Complex counterterrorism ops, high-stakes hostage rescues, and seizing the seemingly untouchable. Equipped with night vision that turns darkness to daylight, suppressed weapons, stealth gear, and encrypted comms, they fast-rope silently from radar-evading Black Hawks, gliding into the compound like ghosts. Guards sense the intrusion. Faint alarms buzz, emergency lights flicker, sporadic gunfire cracks the tension. But Delta is always one step ahead, faster, sharper, overwhelming with practiced perfection. Brief resistance crumbles in minutes. No prolonged firefight, no chaos, just pure surgical dominance. Maduro and Celia, jolted awake, rush toward the fortified safe room, pulses pounding as reality sinks in. Doors burst. Commands echo, it's over swiftly. Handcuffs click. Blindfolds secure. They're lifted into the night sky, first to the waiting offshore naval vessel in dark waters, then directly to U.S. soil. By dawn, the world sees the foe, and Maduro's era ends in a flash. The news breaks like a tsunami. Social media explodes. Venezuelan communities abroad, in Miami, Madrid, Bogotá, flood the streets, some in celebration, waving flags, tears of relief after years of worry for family back home. Others mourn or protest, seeing it as foreign aggression. In Caracas, a strange calm settles, people processing the unthinkable. Vice President Delcy Rodriguez quickly steps forward, declaring interim leadership and demanding Maduro's immediate return, calling the operation a kidnapping. President Trump addresses the nation, framing it as law enforcement triumph and promising U.S. help for a stable transition, with hints at securing vital resources like oil. Global leaders react in waves, praise from some for holding accountability, sharp condemnation from others as a dangerous breach of sovereignty. Russia, China, Iran issue strong statements. The UN debates urgently. Markets jitter, oil prices fluctuate on uncertainty. The world holds its breath, wondering what comes next for Venezuela and beyond. Maduro touches down in New York, transferred to a high-security federal facility in Brooklyn, a stark contrast to the presidential palace. Just days after the dramatic capture, he appears in Manhattan federal court for the first time. Heavy security everywhere, agents, barriers, media swarms. The charges are red, built on that 2020 indictment and updates, centering on allegations of narco-terrorism, massive drug trafficking conspiracies, and more. Prosecutors will have their chance to present years of gathered evidence. The defense will fight back fiercely, likely challenging everything from the operation's legality to immunity claims. This trial could drag on for months, even years, full of twists, witness testimonies, international lawyers. It's not just about one man, it's about precedents. Can a world power extract a foreign leader this way?